In that world, healers were known for their remarkable abilities, and for that reason, they were appointed to prestigious positions. There was even a royal academy dedicated to training the finest healers in the kingdom. Most healers were classified into 3 ranks: first degree, second degree, and third degree. Yet there was a man named Xenos, who, unlike them, did not possess even a license to use healing magic, but that never stopped him from helping people in every way he could. Xenos purchased a house in the southern part of the kingdom, far from the noise of the city, in order to treat those who needed help. After he finished treating the man who had been in his office, the man placed the payment on the table and thanked him, and Xenos replied that it was no problem at all, so long as the fee was paid. After the man left, his assistant Lily entered and reminded him that he had a home visit. He told her that he would leave immediately, and Lily informed him that she would prepare dinner for him when he returned after a few hours. Xenos completed the medical visit, and as he was returning home, he noticed a girl who seemed to be in severe pain. Suddenly, a nobleman appeared and shouted at her, demanding to know why she was there. The girl tried to explain that a sharp pain in her abdomen had driven her to go to the hospital, but they refused to treat her because she had no money. The nobleman looked at her with contempt and told her that a mere stomachache was not a valid reason to visit a hospital, especially since she was nothing more than a slave. He then dragged her by force and commanded her to return to her work at once. He took her to the cemetery and threw her onto the ground, causing her head to strike a rock on one of the graves with a violent impact that could have cost her life. As she lay on the ground writhing in agony, a strange black energy seeped into her body. It was a terrifying sight, but the nobleman did not notice, thinking she was only pretending. He ordered her to get up immediately, but she was unable to move from the intensity of the pain. He approached her and threatened to bury her in the grave next to them if she did not obey his orders. Then he kicked her forcefully, sending her tumbling away. When he grew tired of her delay, he ordered her to search the cemetery for anything of value, then left her and walked off. But it seemed that either the unbearable pain, or perhaps the black energy that had surged into her body, made the girl collapse entirely. Suddenly she lunged at him and slashed his abdomen with a deep wound. The nobleman was stunned. He had never suffered such an injury before. He tried to calm her down and speak to her, but then remembered that just moments ago he had been beating her and insulting her, and it was clear she was intent on vengeance. Realizing that words were useless, he ran off in search of anyone who could help him. Xenos happened to be passing by, and the nobleman rushed toward him in desperation and told him, "My slave has gone mad and wants to kill me." Xenos had already witnessed what had happened earlier in the street, and he understood well that the nobleman deserved everything that was happening to him. The girl arrived, and the nobleman continued begging Xenos to save him. The moment Xenos looked at her, he saw the black energy surrounding her. He asked her directly, "What were you doing?" When he asked the nobleman what had happened, the man did not tell him the truth, that he had been digging up graves, but instead claimed that they had been planting. He quickly tried to change the subject, saying he was severely injured and needed to go to the hospital immediately, offering money in exchange for saving him. But Xenos had no interest in his money, and although he disliked that nobleman, he had sworn to save any life he could. When the girl attacked the nobleman, Xenos grabbed her and pulled her away at the last moment. She threw some rocks at him, but he dodged them effortlessly. The nobleman said to him, "If you are that skilled, why not kill her and be done with it?" But Xenos refused and said that he had a clear principle. He would never kill anyone, no matter what happened, because his primary purpose as a healer was to save as many people as possible. But what was truly strange was that when the girl hurled a massive rock at him with great force, Xenos struck it with his hand and shattered it completely. How could a healer possess such strength? Xenos noticed that the girl was incredibly fast, faster than any natural human or beast, and this made him suspect something unnatural. When she tried to attack him again, he instantly summoned a shield and blocked her strike. The moment she collided with it, she was launched backward, crashing into a nearby building, and part of the building collapsed onto the nobleman himself. After things calmed down, Xenos approached the girl, whose leg had been broken from the violent impact. She was trying to crawl away, still appearing unnatural. Xenos held her firmly after biting her hand to restrict her movement, and he realized that she was possessed. He placed his hand on her head and began healing her to expel the evil spirit inside her, and he succeeded. The nobleman was still alive, and he watched Xenos heal the girl's broken leg in mere seconds, stunned by what he saw. Then he remembered that he himself was critically injured and began begging Xenos to treat him, but Xenos said coldly, "We are closed for today. Wait until tomorrow." The nobleman was shocked. He knew he would die if he waited. He pleaded desperately, and Xenos finally told him he would treat him, but for a higher price. The nobleman said, "Take everything I own," and paid him an enormous amount that far exceeded the usual rate. but Xenos said with the same icy tone that it was not enough. He did not care about money, but he wanted to make the nobleman pay for what he had done. The nobleman threatened to report him for exploitation, but Xenos replied casually, "I am a healer without a license to begin with. Report whatever you wish." And so the nobleman found himself trapped with no escape. Then Xenos said to him, "Look, I can make you a good deal. I will take the money, and also this girl." Since the girl had no value to the nobleman, he agreed immediately and handed Xenos her ownership contract. After that, he received treatment and left, barely able to stand from the severity of his injury. Xenos sat beside the girl until she regained consciousness. When she opened her eyes and saw Xenos, she asked in astonishment, "You? Who are you?" He answered, "I am Xenos, and I have purchased you. You now belong to me." Then he told her, "Now, take off your clothes." The girl was taken aback and asked him in shock, "Are you joking?" But Xenos was not joking. He told her, "You have paid a lot, and I must make sure you are all right." In the end, she had no choice but to comply. She was already his property, so she obeyed. The moment Xenos looked at her body, he understood immediately. He recognized the issue and noticed that she was in pain. The girl was suffering due to a stone in her gallbladder. Xenos placed his hand on her abdomen and, using magic, performed the entire operation in a single second, removing the stone and closing the wound as if nothing had happened. He carried out the procedure in mere moments. The girl asked him, "What did you do?" He answered simply, "I opened your abdomen, removed the stone, and closed it. All normal." But the girl knew that no healer could perform such a feat, so she thanked him. Xenos told her that thanks were not enough. He had invested in her and expected her to work to repay the debt she owed. At first, Till thought Xenos might demand something inappropriate from her, but to her surprise, he only requested that she bring him a specific plant he had been searching for. Till found this request strange, but she went and guided him to the location where the leaves he wanted were. She asked him, "Is this all you want? I am ready to do more if you wish." But Xenos told her it was enough. He preferred to take his due fairly. She had helped him, and thus the debt between them was settled. Afterwards, he tore up her bondage contract and told her, "You are free now. Do as you wish." Till could hardly believe it. She was bewildered, not knowing where to begin after becoming free, yet she was certain she could try new experiences and go wherever she desired, all thanks to Xenos. She asked if she could see him again. He smiled and told her she could visit him at any time, and he would heal her if she were harmed, but of course not for free. At that moment, while Xenos was working outside the house and Lily was preparing dinner, the smell was so intense that Carmilla, the ghost who lived with them, came down to see what was happening. Lily saw her, and Carmilla said she was eager to taste the food, though there was still some time. Lily told her to wait a little. Suddenly, a girl named Sophia entered, looking for Xenos. Lily informed her that he was working outside, so Sophia decided to wait for his return. After a few minutes, Linga also arrived searching for him. When she learned he was not there, she said she would wait as well, then was surprised to see Sophia there. Then, suddenly, a girl named Lou broke through the door as she entered. Lily hurried to greet her, but Lou told her to enter only after she fixed the door she had broken. Lou had also come to see Xenos. Lily could not understand why everyone was looking for him. Lou smelled Lily's food from afar and wanted to taste it. Finally, Lily finished preparing the meal and left the girls in the kitchen to complete some work. But no sooner had she left than the girls could not resist the aroma. They went to taste it. Yet they did not merely taste it. They devoured the entire dish, every last bit. Regret soon appeared on their faces, for Lily would surely be furious. Indeed, Lily returned and saw what had happened. She was extremely angry and demanded that they stand ready and explain exactly what they had done. Later that night, Xenos returned home. Lily apologized to him for the dinner not being ready as she had promised. She explained that she had found a solution. She had sent the girls to fetch ingredients for another meal, and what they brought back exceeded her expectations. With this, she would be able to prepare a proper feast that day. But before all of that, she knew he had been exhausted all day, so she said, Wait while I prepare you a cup of tea to ease your mood. Let us leave this for now, and move to a flashback revealing Xenos' past. We discover that he had once been a member of a global adventurers team. One day, his leader, Aston, threw a gold coin in front of him and said, "You are expelled from the team. You are a poor, useless burden. We do not need you, and none of us needs the likes of you." Yet the truth was that Xenos knew he was the only one keeping the team standing. Aston, however, saw it entirely differently. He told Xenos that he had only been brought along to serve as a human shield, to take the hits for them, because no one would care if he died in a battle. When Xenos tried to explain that the team's strength was due to him, as he healed them each time, Aston laughed and said that Xenos's haphazard methods of healing meant nothing, and that any other healer could do what he did, and even more. Xenos took the coin and walked away. Meanwhile, there were two slave traders trying to restrain an elf girl named Lily to sell her. The woman with them warned the man to be careful not to harm her, for elves were rare and expensive if kept in good condition. The man held her down, pinning her to the ground, but Lily did not give in. She delivered a powerful kick that sent him flying, screaming in intense pain. Seizing the opportunity, she ran, attempting to escape. She was almost free, but unfortunately they had a bow, and they shot an arrow that struck her leg. She fell to the ground, unable to continue running. One of them returned to grab her again, but Lily bit his hand so fiercely that he was forced to stab her to free himself. At that moment, Xenos was passing by when he saw Lily lying on the ground, soaked in her own blood. He asked them, "Did you do this to her?" They replied arrogantly, "Step aside. This is none of your business. We have legal immunity in this country, and we own her and may do with her as we please." Xenos knew their words were legally correct and that he had no power to stop them, but an idea struck him. He said to them, "Very well, I will buy her." He offered them the gold coin he had taken from Aston, although its value was far below the true price of an elf. Lily was on the brink of death, so they agreed, took the money, and left. After they departed, Xenos approached Lily and asked if she was still alive. She had resigned herself to her fate and asked him to leave her, but he said confidently, "You will not die." She looked at her wound in astonishment, for she saw that Xenos had already treated her. She thanked him and apologized for the money he had spent on her, but Xenos said he did not want that money at all, for it reminded him of Aston, and he burned the coin because it had come from him. He asked if she had a home to return to, but she said no, and she was also hungry. He told her he would buy her food and clothes before anything else. Indeed, he took her to a nearby restaurant, and on the way he bought her a new set of clothes. Lily began eating, delighted beyond measure, yet she was surprised that he had not ordered food for himself. He told her he was not hungry, but the truth was that he was completely broke. He had spent all his money on her food and clothes, and after being expelled from his team, he would likely have to search for a new job. Just then, a man entered the restaurant who was clearly injured, his arm pierced and his body covered with burn marks. Xenos saw the wound from a distance and thought to himself, "It seems he was struck by a magical weapon." He reached out and began treating him, and within seconds the wound had completely closed. The man was astonished and asked, "Who are you?" Before Xenos could answer, a woman proudly said, "This is Xenos, the legendary healer." The man had never heard of him before, but he thanked him and gave him some money. At first, Xenos wondered why he was given money. Then he remembered that healers usually charge for their services. An idea occurred to him: to open a clinic and become a professional healer. However, being one of the unorthodox types, it would be extremely difficult for him to obtain an official healing license. Even if he worked legally, he would have to pay exorbitant taxes. Therefore, he decided to be a healer in secret. Lily did not understand what he meant, yet since he was determined to open the clinic, she wished to help him. Xenos pondered for a moment, knowing that opening a clinic without a license was illegal, and he was uncertain whether it was right to involve an innocent child in such an endeavor. But Lily remembered that he had just purchased her ownership, which meant he had become her master, and therefore it was her duty to follow him, no matter the law. While Xenos had no intention of being her master, he merely wished to assist her. Lily said, "If you do not let me go now, I will become a slave again, and that will be your fault." Xenos finally agreed to let her accompany him. However, for Xenos to open his clinic, he needed a place to live, as he was currently homeless. He took Lily to an abandoned part of the city, searching for a suitable house. Lily was puzzled and asked, "Why do you want to live here?" He explained that he needed to hide so that the Royal Medical Association would not discover that he had opened an illegal clinic. Additionally, the place was abandoned and devoid of residents, which meant finding a house to live in would be free. Although convinced by his explanation, Lily was still worried, knowing that abandoned places often harbored terrifying monsters. After a short search, they found a structurally sound house, with a stable roof and strong pillars. Xenos said, "This is the place." But the moment Lily saw it, she felt a mixture of shock and fear. The house resembled a haunted house straight out of a horror movie. She said, "Perhaps we will encounter an evil ghost here, or in the worst case, a Reese." Xenos did not know what a Reese was, so Lily explained that they were terrifying undead creatures inhabiting the house. The house was completely dark, so Lily suggested using her magic to illuminate the place. Xenos was surprised that Lily could use magic, but she clarified that she knew only a few simple spells, nothing more. When her spell lit up the space, they could see the house clearly, and it was far worse than Lily had imagined. Yet Xenos considered it perfectly suitable for his clinic. But the real problem arose when Aris appeared, claiming the house as its own and declaring it would destroy them. It introduced herself as Carmilla and attacked Xenos. He countered her with powerful healing magic, easily repelling her strike. Xenos was not afraid of her at all, for he was accustomed to facing similar situations. Under Aston's leadership, he had been thrown into dangers alone whenever Aston was angry, and he had battled ghosts and monsters like these many times. Xenos had already slain more than 100 Reese before, and it was evident that his healing magic worked exceptionally well against these monsters. Xenos returned to his matter with Carmilla and apologized to her, explaining that he had entered her house without prior permission. He clarified that he had no other place to live and asked if he could reside there with Lily. Carmilla became furious and exclaimed, "How dare you ask to live with me? I am the Queen of Ghosts." She immediately summoned a large number of ghost servants to expel him, but Xenos, calm and composed, used his powerful healing spell, sweeping the floor with a single strike, astonishing all the servants with his strength. Carmilla was shocked by his abilities and began to worry, yet she was no longer determined to throw him out of the house. Xenos calmly requested that she assign him a room and a space to operate his clinic. She relented and said, "Take the ground floor, but the second floor is mine." Xenos saw the deal as excellent, yet Lily began to hesitate, unsure whom she feared more, Carmilla or Xenos himself. The next morning, Lily felt bored because no patients had arrived yet. She said to Xenos, "Go out and do some publicity." He refused, saying, "If anyone at the Kingdom Hospital discovers the clinic, it will be a huge problem." Xenos did not expect to wait long for their first visitor. Within a few minutes, the door opened and a man entered. Lily quickly stepped forward to greet him, and she realized he was the same man Xenos had treated the day before. Xenos had anticipated his return, as individuals exposed to magical injuries rarely go to ordinary hospitals to avoid revealing their condition. The man introduced himself and said he had brought his sister, Sophia, to see Xenos. Xenos observed Sophia and noticed a slight injury on her arm's skin. She explained that she had been harmed yesterday and that the matter was far from normal. Xenos immediately understood that she had been exposed to magic containing poison. Sophia asked if anything could be done. Xenos answered candidly, "Since you remained under the poison's influence all night, the tissue in your arm has completely died. The best solution now is to remove the arm to prevent the poison from spreading through your body." Sophia was saddened by the prospect of losing her arm, yet she knew it was the optimal solution. She asked Xenos, "How much will this procedure cost?" He replied, 1 million. Upon hearing the amount, her brother flew into a rage, exclaiming, 1 million for an arm? He was extremely agitated, but Sophia tried to calm him and began negotiating with Xenos. She said, "Are you certain you want to take this sum from me?" Xenos knew full well that Sophia the Cyclone was one of the 3 gangs controlling the region, and he knew precisely who she was, yet he did not work without compensation. Regenerating limbs required tremendous effort, so Xenos said to her, "Who said I will merely cut off your arm? I will remove it and then recreate a new one for you." Sophia was shocked. She had never heard in her life of a healer capable of regenerating an entire limb. Xenos himself was also surprised at her reaction, as he had not realized this ability was uncommon. He assumed all healers could perform it. He had taught himself and did not know what was ordinary and what was rare. But there was no time now to discuss that. He said to her, "Let us begin." Sophia agreed. Xenos prepared her on the table and started the procedure. He formed a magical blade from energy, but Sophia felt anxious, having never seen anything like it before. He explained, "This is merely a blade of mana, extremely sharp, 100% sterilized, and perfect for surgery." "Don't all your healers use such blades?" Sophia replied. "No." Xenos began the operation. He administered anesthesia, then cut off the damaged arm. He then doubled the power of his healing magic and began constructing a new arm, layer by layer, until it perfectly matched her natural arm. Sophia was amazed and declared she would no longer object to the fee, for it was undoubtedly deserved. She added that she would send all her injured men to him if he agreed. Xenos responded, "As long as they pay, they are welcome." In the following days, Xenos treated a large number of Sophia's gang members. One day, Lily brought him some tea to calm his nerves. Xenos thanked her and then asked, "Why did you make 3 cups? There are only 2 of us." Lily replied, "I made one for Carmilla as well. Perhaps she will wish to join us." Xenos was doubtful, uncertain if Carmilla would even come down to the ground floor, but it turned out she loved tea, and she descended to sit with them. While they were sitting, Lily asked, "Have you noticed that Sophia's men always come to us with severe injuries?" Xenos told her he had noticed, and from what he had seen repeatedly, he began to suspect that a war was ongoing between the gangs. Before he could continue, the door burst open violently, for one of the gangs had decided to enter personally to make the matter clear. A group of werewolves stormed the clinic, led by their commander Linga, who announced loudly, "I have come to kill Xenos." She explained that for days she had been killing Sophia's gang members, yet they kept returning to her as if nothing had happened, so she had decided to eliminate anyone who healed them in the first place. Xenos responded calmly, "First, I do not work for Sophia's gang. Second, I do not welcome violence here." But Linga had already ordered her men to kill him. Xenos had formed a magical barrier to protect himself. No matter what they did, it had no effect on him. He did not even move from his place. At that moment, Linga began to realize that she could not defeat Xenos, so she decided to act more cunningly. She would collapse the entire clinic on top of him. It was a devious plan because she did not know that this house was not Xenos's alone, but also Carmilla's. The moment Linga and the werewolves saw Carmilla, they froze in fear. They knew very well that the leader was a deadly beast and had no chance against her. Carmilla intended to annihilate them as punishment for what they had done, but Xenos stopped her, saying, "Wait. I do not want anyone to die inside the clinic." He then told Linga that he was willing to forgive them on the condition that they repair everything they had damaged. Linga was shocked, unable to believe that the leader would heed the orders of someone like him. She immediately bowed before him and began to apologize and seek his forgiveness, while Xenos said, "As long as you and your men cause no trouble here, I will forgive you, and you are welcome any time." Things proceeded excellently for Xenos after he brought Linga and her followers under his control. One day, an orc entered and informed him that her leader wished to meet him. Xenos was not surprised. He had anticipated this, especially as he had previously dealt with 2 gang leaders in the region. Before leaving, he asked the orc, "And why did she not come herself?" The orc replied, "She cannot. She is completely immobile." As soon as Xenos heard this, he realized she was ill and needed treatment. So he swiftly set out to see the matter. The orc led Xenos to a cave where he met Lou. The moment she saw him, she said that she had been waiting to meet him for some time. Xenos asked her, "And how did you know about me?" She said, "The lizards and werewolves have not stopped talking about the kind secret healer, who is not supposed to be known to anyone." Xenos thought to himself, "All right, the profession's secret is out, but we will find a solution later." Lou told him that she had heard he could heal any injury as long as he was paid enough, and she had come to witness his abilities for herself. Xenos approached her and raised his hand. She asked in surprise, "What are you doing?" He replied, "I see no external wounds, so I will perform a scan to see if the problem is internal." She was astonished, noting that most healers could not do that, but he responded, "Then how would they heal people without examining them?" After completing the scan, he discovered a mass in her abdomen, and this mass contained a magical inhibitor. He concluded that it was a mana stone. He asked her, "Is this mana stone enchanted with an explosive spell? Because if it moves from its place, it might detonate." She replied, "Yes." He asked, "Did anyone try to kill you? Did they put it in your food?" She said, "Absolutely not. I was extremely hungry and mistook it for a large rice ball, and I ate it. Anyone could make this mistake." Xenos told her, "Do not worry, the stone will leave your body over time, and of course, you know how it will come out." But Lou replied, "No, it is not like that. I chewed the stone before swallowing it. It was on the verge of exploding." At that moment, she no longer cared if she died. What bothered her the most was that her men did not want to leave her and depart. Xenos said to her, "So, what do you expect from me?" She replied, "I brought you here to leave all my wealth to you before I depart from life. Before the empire I built collapses, and I want the money to go to those who will benefit from it and serve people, not to a greedy person." As she spoke, she handed him a key, saying, "This is the key to the vaults of my treasures. Take it after my death." Xenos responded, "Did I not tell you I will not let you die?" Without another word, he summoned a magical scalpel and approached her, beginning to open her abdomen. Her men tried to stop him, but before they could do anything, Xenos had already grasped the stone in his hands, and within seconds he extracted it and treated the wound without harm. Nevertheless, the wound remained dangerous, so Xenos held the stone in his hand and pressed it until it exploded. The explosion was enough to destroy an entire district, yet Xenos protected his hand with defensive magic and was unharmed. He returned the key to Lou and said, "Keep your wealth for yourself. There is no need to donate it now." Even so, if she still did not believe that Xenos had truly chosen to save her instead of taking her money, he simply explained that he only takes a fair price for his treatment and charges only for his full work, which seemed somewhat excessive. From that moment, Lou's heart began to soften toward him. and she began to feel something for him. She said to him, "If you ever need any help, all you have to do is ask, and I will be there to assist you." She even offered to send her men to carry his clinic, but he refused, seeing that the presence of her men might cause more problems than it would solve. A few days later, Lily sat troubled at the reception because of Sophia and Linga, as they had begun visiting the clinic almost daily, without having any real injuries. Xenos began to notice this. He observed that these individuals entered and exited frequently, but none of them were harmed. He began to suspect that perhaps they were merely bored, but Carmilla said to him, "My dear, they care for you. Be understanding." Xenos was greatly astonished and thought to himself, "I am merely a simple healer, not a heroic figure or anything of the sort." Yet Carmilla spoke with certainty, and Lilia began to worry that one of them might indeed try to abduct Xenos for herself, though she said nothing. Xenos spoke candidly to her. "I will not go out with any of them. I am sorry." All three of them were violent and rebellious, yet Carmilla told Xenos, "Wait, and you shall see that these three will soon fight because of you." Her vision came true exactly the next day. Sophia arrived at the clinic carrying fruit and told him that she was considering declaring war on the others. She was followed by Linga and Lu Jom with the same intent, all refusing to heed any word from Xenos. He disliked their manner, but he realized he had no choice but to act. Indeed, the three headed to the grand square, each accompanied by her men, ready for a bloody battle. Suddenly, Xenos appeared before them, and everyone stared at him, awaiting his words. Yet he shocked them by saying, "I will not prevent the fight. On the contrary, I know there are old grudges between you. Settle your scores as you wish." The three stood firm and said, "Whoever remains standing in the end shall win Xenos's heart." Xenos was astonished and exclaimed, "When did you agree to this?" Yet the battle had already begun. Sophia lunged at Linga with knives, but Linga evaded the attack and leapt to strike Sophia, who moved with incredible speed. Those who were hit were the men of each side, and the entire square became a true street war. The confrontation continued for 6 consecutive hours without a single fatality. Sophia noticed that her wounds were healing on their own, and she asked Xenos, "What is happening?" He smiled and said, "It is I who am healing you fools. I agreed to the fight but not to death, for you are still human." Everyone was amazed, for no one had ever known of a healer capable of treating such a large number of people simultaneously for 6 continuous hours. They began to understand the message. The fighting would not end until they reached understanding among themselves. Xenos said to them, "If you insist on fighting, I will continue to heal you, but I shall charge by the hour." The three of them realized the depth of their foolishness and decided to reconcile and treat each other with peace from that moment onward. Nevertheless, the war persisted, but in a non-violent manner. Each remained determined to win Xenos's heart, yet this time without swords or henchmen. In the end, Xenos asked Sophia, "Why did you do this? Why trouble yourself?" He recalled the words of his mentor from long ago, who had said, "A true healer knows that real power does not lie in weapons, but in the ability to bring change." A healer who treats ordinary injuries is a third-class practitioner, whereas second-class healers, as previously mentioned, can restore the entire body. First-class healers, however, are capable of making the world a better place. Xenos honestly does not see himself as first class, yet he still carries hope to improve the lives of the poor and make a difference. One might ask, how dare he, having taught himself and never met the great author? The point is, if he let these people perish, they would have no one to heal them, or at least that is what he tells himself. Lily knows that his words in this regard are meant to conceal his kindness and concern for others. Everyone reached an agreement, and no conflict remained. This meant Xenos would no longer have patience as he once did, yet he resolved to continue helping them, a part of the reason Lily admired him, even admitting her respect to him frankly. As evening approached, Xenos decided to go collect his due payment before returning home. At that moment, someone joked, suggesting that Xenos would demand payment for the healing he had performed amidst the fighting. But Xenos was serious. Treating such a large number of people was extremely taxing, and it was only natural that he should receive compensation. Meanwhile, the commander of the kingdom's knights was speaking with his deputy Krishna. She asked if anything had occurred, and he replied that he had heard a rumor claiming the gang war had ended. Krishna was extremely astonished, for this conflict had persisted for years in the slums, and it was hard to believe it could end so abruptly. The commander himself was skeptical of the rumor, but he noted that if it were true, the kingdom would need to take action. The noble system was structured so that the wealthy remained at the top while the poor stayed at the bottom, maintained precisely because the impoverished were occupied with internal strife and did not demand their rights. Yet, should peace be achieved, they would unite and demand services such as free healthcare, something the government most certainly did not desire. The rumor suggested that a mediator had intervened and halted the fighting. The commander decided to assign the task of identifying this person to Krishna, and she agreed to search for him and capture him for his alleged crime. Meanwhile, in his clinic, Zenus suddenly sneezed, causing those around him to be momentarily startled. Calmly, he reassured them that it was nothing serious, and reminded them that he still had work to complete. He asked for a little quiet until he finished treating Sophia. Once he completed treating Sophia's arm, she thanked him and asked how she had been injured. She explained that the injury occurred during her work the previous night. She had been stealing from corrupt nobles to distribute wealth to the poor. While raiding one of the nobles' houses, she was unexpectedly confronted by Deputy Commander Krishna, who unleashes magical shots on anyone she targets. Carmilla sensed that if Krishna focused her attack on Zenus, a great disaster could occur. Yet Zenus remained calm, confident that someone of Krishna's rank would pay little attention to a mere individual like him. At that very moment, Krishna was patrolling the slums, searching for information about Zenus. She observed the people living in peace and approached a lizard, inquiring about the person who had ended the war. The lizard, aware of Zenus's wish for secrecy, claimed ignorance. As he attempted to walk away, Krishna drew her weapon and threatened him with death if he did not answer. The man remained composed and replied calmly, "Shoot, I am prepared to take the bullet." At that instant, Sophia and her brother happened to pass by, and Krishna was unprepared to confront them. She was forced to flee. During her escape, she stumbled upon Zenus's clinic and entered, seeking directions. Zenus agreed to guide her to the central city. However, at that moment, Lily emerged from inside, carrying tea. Upon seeing Krishna and her tall ears, Lily immediately recognized her as the wanted person. She drew her weapon and fired at Zenus's head. Lily was stunned, unable to believe that Krishna had suddenly fired without warning. Krishna calmly explained that she had a compelling reason. She had been tasked with investigating a series of kidnappings in the area. Recognizing that Zenus was human and Lily an elf, she assumed immediately that he had abducted Lily, prompting her to draw her weapon and strike directly. Lily quickly realized that something was amiss. She explained to Krishna that Zenus had actually adopted her of his own free will, without any coercion. Upon hearing the story, Krishna realized that she had judged too hastily. Fortunately, the bullet was not lethal. Zenus may have merely lost consciousness. Everyone was astonished when Zenus appeared unharmed, without a single scratch. Krishna apologized to him, saying she had acted impulsively, yet she remained astonished at how easily he had endured the bullet. Zenus replied simply that he had used a defensive spell to intercept the bullet before it reached him. Nevertheless, Krishna was unconvinced, insisting that no ordinary defensive magic could stop her shot. With her experience as the deputy commander of the kingdom's knights, she had witnessed countless forms of magic, and considered the shield Zenus had used to be on par with the most skilled sorcerers. When Krishna mentioned her position as deputy commander of the royal knights, both Zenus and Lily tensed, realizing that her presence could bring complications. It seemed Krishna had come specifically to request something from Zenus, so he was careful to proceed cautiously to avoid any repercussions. Zenus agreed to speak with Krishna, but at the same time, he issued a warning to all his assistants not to approach while they were seated. Once they had settled, Krishna informed Zenus that she was on a secret mission and required his assistance. He initially refused, stating that he did not wish to get involved, but Krishna insisted, explaining that all citizens must comply with the orders of the kingdom's knights. Since she was persistent and determined, Zenus feared she might act against him again, so he decided to help. She explained that her mission was to locate and apprehend a particular man, though she did not know his name or appearance, only that he was the person who had ended the war among the gangs. Zenus was taken aback but tried to control his reaction. He asked why she wished to capture this man. Krishna responded that the orders of the knights could not be ignored, and anyone capable of achieving peace among people could pose a threat to the balance of power, and thus must be placed under surveillance. When she attempted to interrogate a resident of the slums by force, he refused to speak, which only strengthened Krishna's conviction of the man's danger. Zenus tried to calm her, explaining that the man was merely a simple mediator seeking an honest livelihood, and that if left alone, he would cause no harm. When Krishna asked if he knew the man, Zenas promptly denied it, clarifying that it was only speculation from her perspective. Yet Krishna was not one to relent. She received direct orders from the commander of the knights and believed that anyone capable of halting a war could threaten stability and therefore must be monitored. When Lily intervened, asserting that this mediator posed no threat to the state but merely sought lawful means of earning a living, it became clear that she knew him well, which aroused Krishna's suspicion. Lily attempted to save herself quickly by claiming she did not know Zenas, but the doubts continued to grow. Nevertheless, she decided to remain silent for the time being and set the matter aside. Over time, Zenas sought to conclude the discussion. He told her that they should rest for a while, then gently guided her toward the door. In her haste, she stumbled and fell onto the bed in the corner. Krishna was astonished and asked him how the bed came to be in that spot, and Zenas did not know how to answer, for he did not wish to reveal that he slept there because of a ghost roaming upstairs. He simply said, "It is merely a spare bed." Upon hearing that the bed was unoccupied, Krishna immediately asked, "May I sit here for a while?" She had been searching for a place to carry out her mission in the slums for a long time, but had found no suitable location. If Zenas allowed her to stay until she completed her task, she would be immensely grateful and willing to pay rent. Zenas could not refuse without raising further suspicion, so he agreed to assist her, and Carmilla could not suppress her laughter at the scene. At the end of the day, Lily fell asleep, and Zenas gently carried her to the bed before returning to the living room to continue speaking with Krishna. He began recounting the day he rescued Lily from the slave traders and discovered that these individuals were part of a vast human trafficking network, which explained Lily's swift reaction upon seeing Krishna. Unfortunately, Zenas had no further information about the network. Krishna then asked an unusual question. Is it possible, if one trains well in healing magic, to restore a lost arm? Zenas was about to respond that such a feat was nearly impossible for ordinary people, but she interrupted him, asserting that it was indeed impossible, and that anyone capable of such a restoration must be either a powerful sorcerer or among the highest-ranking healers. Krishna displayed great interest in the matter, explaining that she had engaged in a confrontation with a woman named Sophia and had believed that Sophia had damaged her arm, yet upon observing her arm as it had been 2 days prior, she began to suspect that someone might possess the power to restore an entire limb. If true, such a person would undoubtedly hold considerable influence among the gang leaders. The following day, Krishna set out to search for any evidence that might lead her to this healer, whom she perceived as dangerous. Zenas, puzzled by her belief that any healer could be sinister, asked her, "Do you think all the residents of the slums are evil?" She answered candidly, "Yes. My mother was kind and loved helping others. She would always go into the slums to distribute food to the needy, but one day she did not return, and the people said she had been killed for stealing her husband's ring." The knowledge of her mother's fate filled Krishna with heartbreak, for while her mother had saved many, no one had saved her. From that moment, Krishna resolved to join the knights, determined to become an indomitable hero and seek vengeance on the criminals of the slums. The next morning, Krishna resumed her search, while Zenas returned to tend to his patients. Sophia arrived with a minor wound on her arm and requested treatment. As Zenas began his work, he cautioned her to remain vigilant, for Krishna could appear at any moment. Without warning, Krishna entered the clinic, and the moment she saw Sophia, she drew her pistols, while Sophia pulled out her knives, and the two stood in a tense standoff. Krishna asked Sophia seriously, "Is there an evil healer who gathers criminals and threatens the people?" Sophia did not answer with a denial, but she stated confidently, "The healer is not evil at all. I am naturally a thief, and I know very well that some nobles commit far worse acts." Then Sophia informed Krishna that she had heard of her investigating a child trafficking gang, and upon her inquiry, she discovered that behind it all stood a noble. Krishna was shocked to hear this, for the gang was hiding in the slums, and in her view it was impossible for a noble to be behind such an act. Sophia replied calmly, "It is a well-crafted deception. They use the slums as a cover to stay away from the royal knights." Krishna preferred not to believe it and asked for the name of the person responsible. Sophia simply answered, "Kalendor." Krishna was extremely astonished, for he was known for his love of orphans and funding their education, making it impossible in her eyes that he would be selling children as slaves. Sophia had anticipated Krishna's reaction, knowing that Krishna saw all the slum residents as criminals and trusted no one, unlike Zenos, who had never distinguished between rich and poor, helping everyone without judgment or discrimination. This provoked Krishna to the point that she nearly fired at Sophia, but Zenos calmly stepped in, saying, "Calm yourself. He tried to push her away, but told her it would be useless because Sophia was injured and could not be left to suffer harm. Then Xenos revealed the truth to her, saying, "I am the person you are seeking, daughter of the people." Krishna doubted his words, believing he was lying to cover for Sophia, and said, "It is impossible for him to be the healer. He is a master of defensive magic, so how could he also be skilled in healing?" Xenos laughed and said, "I do not claim to be a master, but healing and defense rely on the same principle, activating the natural functions of the body." Krishna was still unconvinced, yet she respected Lily, whom Xenos had introduced the previous night, and decided to leave without causing trouble. As she departed, Xenos noticed she was heading toward the noble district. He understood that she had taken Sophia's words seriously and was going to confront Kalendor, though she could not face him directly. Instead, she pretended she had come to discuss the thefts occurring in the area. Kalendor replied, "Let us address the issues related to Sophia's recent injury." She told him that she intended to increase patrols in the area and needed to inspect matters thoroughly. He agreed and took her on a tour inside the palace. After the tour, he asked her opinion on the security measures, and she praised him. Yet at one point she noticed something strange. The backyard was excessively secured. Before leaving, she requested to use the restroom, and when she exited the office and glanced at the garden, she saw a secret entrance. She was shocked to realize that Sophia had been right all along, and that Kalendor was indeed behind the child abductions. But before she could do anything, Kalendor appeared behind her, holding the pistol she had left there. He threatened her and struck her arm, laughing as he said she should never have come to investigate, and that he would finish her off to continue his trade without interference. Before he could carry out his threat, Sophia and Xenos arrived, and Xenos, worried when he learned where she had gone, asked Sophia to guide him there. Kalendor disliked the presence of witnesses, so he switched the pistol to lethal mode and fired at Xenos' face. Yet, to his shock, Xenos remained standing. Though he felt the pain, he was unharmed. Panicked, Kalendor attempted to flee, dropping his weapon in the process. Xenos, who refused to kill anyone, chose instead to subdue him non-lethally. He set the pistol to non-lethal mode and fired a shot to the head to frighten him. Then, Xenos rushed to Krishna, who lay on the ground. She told him it was useless. Her arm was severely damaged, a large part of her abdomen exposed, and she had lost all hope. Xenos, confident, told her, "You will be fine, but the cost of the treatment will be very high." She braced herself for the shock. In a short while, she returned to full health, stunned by the speed of her recovery. At that moment, she began to believe that he truly was the man everyone spoke of. Deciding not to arrest him, it became clear that he was a genuine hero, not a villain. Yet Xenos himself did not see himself as a hero, merely as a healer preventing people from dying. Indeed, if anyone deserved to be called a hero, it was Krishna, for she had been the first to act to save the children. Though she sometimes acted hastily or passed erroneous judgments, her heart was pure, and her ultimate goal was to save the world. Sophia and her companions helped to free the children from the storage, but Xenos knew that the royal knights were approaching, so he and the others decided to withdraw before their arrival. Before leaving, Krishna ran after him and asked, "Why did you help me, even though I was your enemy at the time?" Xenos turned to her with a smile and replied, "Because you owe me some dues. You haven't forgotten. There is the rent for the night you stayed in the clinic and the cost of the treatment. I want the full amount by the end of the week, so beware." With Xenos no longer preoccupied with Krishna, his life began to return to normal with Lily. Yet the truth was, Xenos' life had never truly been normal. Orphaned in his youth, he had lived in the slums without food or hope, spending his days sitting aimlessly in the corners of the streets. One day, Stone was walking through the alleys contemplating the use of a child as a servant or even as a human shield when he spotted Xenos. He approached him and spoke in a sly manner. "You are poor and hungry without work. Come with me on an adventure." Xenos thought the man was kind, yet he hesitated, for people like him had no right to embark on adventures at all. Stone tried to persuade him. "If you have skill, you can become anything." Stone asked, "Do you know how to do anything?" Xenos replied, "I know how to practice a type of healing magic." Stone laughed quietly, dismissing the idea that a street orphan could know such magic, which normally required years of study at the King's Academy. Nonetheless, Xenos indeed knew how to perform it, while Stone planned to use him as a trap or a distraction if necessary. When Xenos agreed to accompany Stone, they were taken to the forest, where they faced a wolf-like monster. Injured during the battle, Xenos used his magic to heal him. When the monster attacked again, Xenos cast another spell that increased Stone's speed, allowing him to decapitate the creature with a single strike. Strangely, Stone did not notice how his wounds had healed, or how he had become faster, and he assumed that Xenos was useless. After that, Stone was expelled from the team. Everyone knows what Xenos did afterward, but the lives of Stone and his team were never the same. During a mission, they entered a large cave to prove themselves to the nobles, yet all of them were dissatisfied with the work. One day Stone said to them, "Let's finish quickly and return to rest at the hotel." Andre was excited because the girls were running after the team. When they discovered that they were part of the Golden Phoenix team, the legendary team known for completing missions without injuries, the team regained some of their former prestige, though this was long ago. As soon as they faced the monsters attempting to kill them, the Sun drew his sword and asked Jules to place a protective enchantment on it. The enchantment was completed, but during the battle, one of them was injured in the arm and set ablaze. At the same time, they were attacked by another monster. Stone shouted at Andre to cast an offensive spell, but Andre was too slow to prepare it, and suddenly, a fireball struck him before he could finish chanting. Stone was shocked and wondered, had his team always been like this? It seemed they had no intention of winning. He shouted and ordered an immediate withdrawal. When they exited the cave, the Sun asked, "How were you unable to defeat him in front of such a powerful monster?" Andre replied, "And what did you do?" Jules began to suspect. Perhaps they did not realize that Xenos had been healing them all along, that he was the true source of the team's strength. But Stone dismissed this idea. Impossible. No one like Xenos could have done that. To ensure the team's safety, they decided to summon a specialized healer. After several days, they returned to the cave accompanied by a healer named Ma, who said to them, "I am not a battle specialist. I only practice healing in the capital. But since I possess an adventure license and I am in Taji, I will assist you." She was quite surprised that the Golden Phoenix team, renowned for completing missions without injuries, required a healer, yet she refrained from interfering beyond that, allowing them to focus on their task. Joel, usually calm, inquired about Stone's condition after his previous injury. Ma informed them that a healer named Alma had taken care of him and expressed confidence that he would survive. However, she emphasized that his state was very critical and that he would not be able to return to the field of adventures. Stone, indifferent, responded coldly, "He never deserved to stay with us anyway." When they turned their attention to the mission, they realized it was crucial for Stone. A prominent noble desired to craft a scarf from the fur of a firefox, an object that would endanger his daughter. If Stone succeeded in fulfilling this request, he would win favor with Rotor Lord. Suddenly, the wolves reappeared and attacked without warning. Stone immediately struck back, instructing Joel to cast a magical shield to protect the entire team. The monster attacked ferociously and could not be touched by gold. Even when 4 fireballs were hurled at it, the shield deflected 3, but the 4th struck Andrew in the abdomen. Ma cried out, insisting that he be removed immediately because his condition was critical. For the second time, Stone could not believe what was happening. Upon exiting the cave, he yelled at her, asking why the shield had not been sufficient, but she explained that it had performed perfectly, and that without it, Andrew would have lost his life. Stone then demanded she heal him quickly. Ma clarified that such an injury required a high-level healer, and that the chances of saving him were slim unless he was transported immediately to a fully equipped hospital. Afterward, Stone went to meet the Lord's servant, who informed him that the Lord was extremely angry. Stone attempted to regain a second chance, but the gift had already been delayed, and the Lord's daughter had celebrated her birthday. What angered the Lord was not merely the failure, but that Stone had insisted on continuing the mission instead of telling him plainly that the task was difficult or impossible. Stone considered blaming Xenos, but he remembered that Xenos had not been registered as a leader, nor officially part of the team. No one could blame him. Reluctantly, Stone bowed his head and apologized. Feeling humiliated to have to apologize to a servant, he promised to make amends. The servant asked how he intended to do so, while half of his team had perished. Stone replied that he planned to recruit new members and prepare a new team for the next mission. After the servant departed, Joel asked him, "Are you really planning to continue? We haven't even found people to join us." Stone responded confidently, "I have a plan." Perhaps Xenos did not like him or consider him important, yet he could not deny that the team had been far better when he was present, so he decided to bring him back. The next day, Stone and Joel went to the poor districts in search of Xenos, but they did not know where to begin until a brilliant, or perhaps foolish idea occurred to them. They would contact the 3 gang leaders to help locate him, certain that these people would do anything for money. Soon after, one of Sophia's men arrived and approached her while she was not particularly busy, as she had an appointment at the clinic. However, upon learning that money was involved, she decided to listen to what he had to say. Stone introduced himself, claiming to be the leader of the Golden Phoenix team, and stated that he was looking for a man named Xenos, who had appeared in the poor district about 2 months ago. At first, Sophia could not believe what she heard, for Xenos had previously told her that Stone had expelled him from the team, a foolish act in itself, and even more foolish was that Stone had now come searching for him after what had happened. Sophia responded angrily, "Get out of my sight. Xenos has more important matters than to sit and listen to you." Stone felt annoyed and stood there, contemplating attacking her. Sandri, having observed the behavior of those around him, restrained his recklessness and regained his composure, returning his sword to its place after Sophia had closed the door in front of him. He then decided to test his luck with Linga. Upon recognizing his identity, Linga met him with stern coldness and ordered him to leave, which bewildered Stone, who considered creating chaos to achieve his goal. Yet Linga's steadfastness forced him to retreat. She could have defeated him 3 times before he could even blink, so he refrained from any further action and withdrew. Afterward, he approached Lu, believing she might be able to find a solution. She warned him firmly that if he attempted to harm Xenos, he would not survive and would face severe consequences. At that moment, Stone and Joel withdrew from the cave, astonished to see the leaders of the major factions all aligned in support of Xenos. Stone could hardly believe it, attempting to convince himself that they were speaking of someone else with the same name, for he could not imagine that the Xenos he knew had earned such respect and admiration. Suddenly, Joel spotted Xenos walking through the streets alongside Lily after completing several missions. Stone called out to Xenos, who was surprised to see them but chose to ignore them and continue forward. Sun stood behind him, raising his voice, urging him to return to the Golden Phoenix squad. Yet Xenos refused without hesitation, leaving Sun utterly shocked, as he had expected Xenos to rejoice at the thought of rejoining. Xenos recalled all the mistreatment he had endured from the very beginning, from insults to the crushing grip of poverty, and realized there was no reason to return to that team. However, if Stone was determined, Xenos could assist with certain missions for a defined payment. He clearly stated his terms: 50,000 for treating ordinary injuries, 1 million for serious wounds, with additional fees for any defensive magic or enhancements. He made it unequivocally clear that without the readiness to pay, no negotiation would occur. As Xenos began to leave, Stone felt frustrated by the public refusal and raised his sword in an attempt to attack him. Before he could act, however, a powerful spell struck him from Krishna, causing him to collapse to the ground. He immediately understood the folly of his actions, especially in front of a royal knight, for Krishna had originally come to monitor Xenos, and since Sun attempted an assault, it became necessary to apprehend him. Sun tried to flee as fast as he could, fully aware that he would not escape punishment. After the situation settled, Xenos and Lily returned to their home. Shortly thereafter, Sophia and Linga arrived, informing him that Sun had attempted to solicit their help in finding Xenos, though all of them had refused to intervene. Despite rebuffing him, Sophia remained concerned that Sun might try again to reach Xenos and warned that if he resorted to the illicit lower guild, he could hire assassins to end Xenos' life out of vengeance. Yet hiring mercenaries was not without cost, and if Stone had to search for Xenos himself rather than recruit new team members, it likely meant he was bankrupt. Nevertheless, Sophia's worry persisted, particularly because of rumors surrounding a figure in the lower guild known as the Mentor, said to be capable of executing tasks for free under certain conditions. If Stone managed to convince him, Xenos could find himself in serious trouble. Amid all this tension, Xenos could not sleep. Suddenly, Carmilla appeared, concerned, and sat beside him to ask, "Did you truly learn the healing magic in the slums?" Xenos replied that he had been trying to restore corpses to life, and that the healing magic had begun to manifest naturally, without prior study. Carmilla remarked that necromancy was forbidden, yet she defended him, acknowledging that he had not known it was prohibited at the time. As she spoke, memories of her past returned, days spent living amidst the wars between the Demon King and the army of golems. Suddenly, Xenos heard a tremendous commotion outside the house. Carmilla approached to investigate, and as soon as she stepped out, she was confronted with an immense disaster. A vast portion of the slums was ablaze, fire engulfed the area, and destruction spread in every direction. It became evident that Stone, driven by poverty and financial need, had been unable to hire a professional mercenary. Instead, he had turned to the man known as the Guide, who agreed to undertake the task for free, but insisted on hearing the full story first to decide whether it was worth his time. Stone began recounting every detail to to the guide. The latter could not suppress his laughter at Stone's sheer selfishness and folly, yet he showed interest, remarking that the matter seemed entertaining, especially since he wanted to test his new weapon at the same time. Xenos, Carmela, and the others arrived in the city, and upon witnessing the scene firsthand, they were shocked by the scale of the devastation. It was far worse than they had imagined. Immediately, Sophia, Linya, and Lu joined them, and all of them sought Xenos' help, as a large number of people had been injured by the violent assault of the golem. Xenos inquired if they knew the source of the golem, but unfortunately, they had no idea. All they knew was that it had emerged from the deep sections of the slums. Xenos began to suspect that the underground secret guild might be behind these events, but he decided to postpone any theories for the moment. He instructed them to gather all the injured in one location so that he could begin treatment. Once he finished, he vowed that the one responsible would deeply regret their actions. Meanwhile, the guide observed the scene from a distance, enjoying the golem's power, though he thought its speed required slight improvement. Nevertheless, he concluded that this golem was sufficient to accomplish his mission, for he knew little about Xenos but was eager to witness his reaction as he watched his friends fall, one by one, before his eyes. In the city, Linja, Lu, and Sophia gathered their soldiers, ordering each to search for the injured and bring them to Xenos. Once everyone was in place, Xenos began preparing to heal them. He asked Carmela to step back slightly to give space and to avoid any harm or accidental interference due to magic. He then cast a healing spell, and everyone immediately noticed the improvement. When he completed the spell, he instructed them to leave the area quickly. Afterwards, he checked on those who were beyond the spell's reach to continue their treatment. He was furious, not only because he had been forced out in the middle of the night, but also because he had to treat hundreds of people. He resolved that the individual responsible for this destruction would pay dearly, yet, at that moment, he still did not know who it was or what their goal had been. On the other side, the mentor was stunned by Xenos' strength, for he had not expected him to save all these people in such a manner. He had been certain that some of them would perish amidst the chaos, yet he discovered that Xenos was a healer of the highest caliber. Still, even with continuous healing, the golem would persist in destroying everything around it. Xenos completed the treatment of all the injured, and everyone moved away from the area, yet the golem continued its relentless devastation. Xenos asked Carmilla if there was any hope that the golem might retreat or leave on its own. She replied that it was impossible. The golems were programmed to continue until they achieved the purpose for which they were sent. That purpose was clear: to annihilate the slums entirely, and they would not stop until it was erased from the map. Carmilla also explained that the distant magical stone controlling the heart of the golem was supposed to have ceased functioning since the Great War, and this was the first time Xenos had witnessed a golem of such power in years. Xenos wanted a brief rest, but time did not permit him. He had to act swiftly before the situation worsened. His companions offered their assistance, but he asked if they were confident in themselves, as he could not guarantee their survival if they were injured during the battle. Each one was ready to take the risk, and they resolved to stand with him and protect their city, no matter the cost. It was essential to devise an organized plan to confront the golem. Xenos asked Carmilla how they could defeat it. She explained that they must destroy the magical stone within its heart. Otherwise, it would never cease. Xenos hesitated momentarily, for he had intended to sell the stone for profit, but ultimately he decided to cooperate with the team. He turned to them and said, "Strike the golem with all your might, and I shall provide support throughout the battle." The three charged immediately to attack the golem. Xenos cast a spell to increase their speed, making their movements faster. As they approached to strike, he cast another spell to enhance their strength, and their blows were enough to shatter one of the golem's legs completely. The golem lost its balance and fell to the ground, yet their joy was incomplete, for the magical stone in its heart granted it the ability to reconstruct itself endlessly. Suddenly, Linga collided with the golem, and her flying device shattered. Naturally, her body should have suffered complete fractures, but thanks to Xenos' magic, she remained unharmed and perfectly well. It had been a long time since their last encounter of this kind, yet the echoes of the battle lingered vividly in their minds. Xenos entered the real battle, still regaining his sense of movement and mastery of combat, yet he gradually began to regain control over himself. He focused on two crucial matters. First, not to stray from the rest of the team to ensure the continuous effect of the spells, and second, that he could not use the spells of speed, strength, and healing simultaneously, for each spell had a different activation sequence, requiring him to switch between them according to necessity. After a short while, Xenos noticed that the golem no longer moved on its own. He realized that delivering powerful strikes simultaneously could temporarily immobilize it. He instructed the team to attack its second leg, and they successfully brought it down once more. But disaster struck when Sophia saw a little girl hiding inside one of the houses, and the golem was about to fall on her. Xenos was too far to cast a protection spell in time, so he raced at full speed to save the child, yet he could not reach her in time. Logically, the girl should have perished, but suddenly, the golem stopped falling, a phenomenon deemed impossible, for golems ordinarily possess no emotions or will and cannot distinguish humans. Carmilla was astonished, declaring it utterly illogical, while Xenos himself was more bewildered. He quickly cast a spell on the golem, only to uncover a shocking revelation. Stone was inside the golem, transformed. The man who had created the golem had used it as a means to activate the magical stone, as the stone was far too complex to create a natural golem alone. He had decided to merge it with a human, and stone had become the unfortunate vessel. Xenos drew a deep breath and ordered the team to withdraw from the battlefield. Everyone was perplexed, yet they trusted his judgment and left him to confront the situation alone. Xenos addressed Stone, telling him that the time had come to settle everything between them. Their connection had begun when Sun had taken him from the streets, and Stone had always harbored selfish intentions. But today he had saved a small child, proving that a part of humanity still remained within him. Xenos reflected that Stone had sought wealth and power after his sister's death, as he had been unable to save her. Yet his saving of the child now was driven by human instinct. This did not justify his previous actions, but it raised a question. Did a spark of humanity still dwell within him? Ultimately, Stone was unconscious, and Xenos had no choice but to confront him. Stone attempted to destroy him, but Xenos moved swiftly, activating his weapon and transforming it into a massive sword, severing the golem's arms. Then he struck with a powerful wind blow, creating a large opening in the golem's chest, through which Stone's true body was revealed. Xenos hesitated, but he realized that the mission had to be completed to prevent an even greater catastrophe. Xenos readied his sword and thrust it into Stone's chest. The mentor, who had been observing the events from afar, was taken aback by the swiftness of Xenos' action, yet when he recalled the previous torment and humiliation Stone had inflicted, he understood it as a justified measure in Xenos' eyes. In truth, however, Xenos did not intend to kill him. His target was the portions fused with the magical stone, aiming to liberate Stone from its grip. Once that was accomplished, he immediately set about healing Stone's wounds to keep him alive. The mentor was astounded by Xenos' ability to handle hundreds of injured people moments ago, and then turn his full focus to this intricate task with unwavering precision. Frankly, Xenos was indifferent to whether Stone lived or died. Yet he saw the necessity of someone paying for all the destruction that had occurred. Stone, already destitute, would not have permitted himself to die without confessing and revealing the creator of the golem. Knowing Stone's ruthlessness, Xenos also understood that the reward in gold coins had been what allowed him to save Lily and establish the clinic. As a healer, Xenos vowed to save every soul, no matter who it was, even one like Stone. He raised his sword and struck the magical stone decisively, shattering it completely and severing Stone's connection to the golem. Calm returned to the scene, and when Stone regained consciousness, he began to grasp the magnitude of Xenos' power. He saw clearly how Xenos had assisted the team leaders in battle, and realized that his previous assumptions about him had been wrong. Xenos treated everyone with fairness, even under the harshest circumstances. Stone looked at Xenos, clenching himself in tension, but Xenos said coldly, "Raise your head. Not because I forgive you, but so I can restore order to the chaos in which you've lived for years." Xenos had waited for the right moment to strike Stone, and now, with him awake, there was no room for mercy. Amplifying his power tenfold, Xenos delivered a series of crushing blows, leaving Stone unconscious on the ground. After several hours, Stone awoke to find Krishna standing above him. She told him that she had met Xenos along the way and had been briefed on the sequence of events. "You are fortunate," she said plainly, "because no one died. Otherwise, you would have faced charges of murder." Xenos did not leave the situation without taking further measures. The authorities decided to press multiple charges against him, including destruction of public property, assault on civilians, and committing an indecent act in a public area. Moreover, the box he had received from Xenos had ruined all of his clothes. They also explained that Xenos had requested her to deliver a message stating that he had taken his sword while unconscious, that the sword was valuable, and that he could